Picture this. It is the 15th of the month. You wake up, grab your phone, and check your banking app. You see the deposit hit. It is a big number. Maybe the biggest paycheck you have ever received. For a split second, you feel rich. You feel safe. But then you scroll down to the credit card autopay scheduled for tomorrow. Then you see the pending mortgage withdrawal. Then the daycare fee. Suddenly, that big deposit does not look like wealth anymore. It looks like just enough coal to keep the engine running for 2 more weeks. This is the quiet desperation of the high-income earner. You did everything right. You got the degree, you climbed the ladder, you cracked the 6-figure code. But you feel broke. Actually, you feel worse than broke because you know you should not be. Today we are going to dismantle the illusion of the high income, run the brutal math on where that money actually goes, and figure out why earning more often makes us feel like we have less. I call this the high income trap. It is a specific economic gravity that pulls harder the higher you climb. I've spent years looking at balance sheets, and I've noticed a terrifying pattern. People earning $100,000, $200,000, even $300,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck with zero liquidity. We are going to fix that today. We are going to audit your life. I'm not going to tell you to stop buying coffee. That is small potatoes. We are going after the structural leaks draining your net worth. Before we dive into the numbers, do me a favor. If you want to actually keep the money you make, hit that subscribe button. Consider it the best return on investment you will get on your time today. All right, let's look at the first lie you were told: your salary. The first problem starts the moment you sign your offer letter. We are conditioned to think in gross numbers. You say, "I make $100,000. It becomes part of your identity. It signals safety and success. You mentally budget based on that 6-figure number. You look at a $2,000 apartment or a $600 car payment and you think, well, that is only a tiny percentage of my 100 grand. But that is the trap. You do not make $100,000. You never touch that money. It is a theoretical number that exists only on HR spreadsheets. The gap between your gross income, the number you brag about, and your net income, the number you actually live on, is the first place the illusion breaks down. Most people ignore this gap until tax season, but by then the money is already spent. Let's run the actual numbers on that offer letter. Say you are a single filer earning exactly $100,000. Right off the top, the IRS takes their cut. Depending on brackets, let's estimate roughly 15 to 18% for federal income tax. Then you have FICA, Social Security and Medicare. That is another 7.65% flat. If you live in a state with income tax, add another 5 or 6%. If you are in New York or California, add even more. Suddenly, that 100 grand is looking a lot like 70,000. That is nearly a 30% haircut before the money even hits your direct deposit. On a monthly basis, your $8,300 a month gross becomes maybe $5,800 net. That is a massive discrepancy. That is $2,500 a month that you thought you had, which simply vanished into the ether of bureaucracy. But here is the twist. It is not just taxes. It is the purchasing power of that money. We still talk about 6 figures like it is 1998. Culturally, we anchored our definition of rich 20 years ago. But thanks to inflation, $100,000 today has the same purchasing power as about $65,000 did back then. So, mathematically, you are paying modern prices with a salary that has decades-old prestige but diluted value. You are walking around with a title that says high earner, but your grocery bill and gas pump are treating you like everyone else. The psychological trap is that you spend like a 1990s 6-figure earner while earning 2020's fiat currency. This cognitive dissonance is why you feel broke. You are trying to buy a lifestyle that this salary bracket can no longer afford. Here is the protocol to fix this mental leak. Stop using your gross salary in conversation, even with yourself. If someone asks what you make, or if you are calculating a budget, you need to use your net realizable income. Look at your last 3 bank statements. Average the actual cash deposits. Annualize that number. That is your income. If the deposit is $5,000 a month, you make $60,000 a year. Period. I don't care what the contract says. By anchoring your lifestyle to the net number, you instantly create a buffer. It hurts the ego, sure. It is less fun to say, I make 68K, than I make 100. But the ego is expensive, and we are trying to get rich, not look rich. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Tom, taxes suck, I get it. I can adjust for that. But if you think taxes are the reason you are broke, you are missing the much bigger, much more dangerous predator in your financial life. This next trap is voluntary. It is celebrated by your friends, and it is likely eating 40% of your take-home pay right now. If we don't fix this next variable, no amount of tax planning will save you. I am talking about housing, the American dream. As soon as your income goes up, the pressure to upgrade your living situation becomes immense. We have this script in our heads. High-income people live in high-income houses. Maybe you moved from a starter apartment to a luxury condo, or you bought the house in the good school district, because that is what responsible adults do. Banks facilitate this. They look at your gross income, remember that fake number, and they pre-approve you for a loan that will absolutely crush your soul. They tell you that you can afford a monthly payment that is 45% of your take-home pay. And because the bank said yes, you sign the papers. You think you are buying an asset. But for the vast majority of high earners, your primary residence is actually your largest liability. Let's crunch the PITI: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You buy a $500,000 home. With interest rates hovering around 7%, your interest payments alone are staggering. In the first few years of a 30-year mortgage, something like 80% of your payment is just interest. You are basically renting money from the bank. Then add property taxes. In some states, that is 10 grand a year. Insurance is climbing. Suddenly, that investment is costing you $4,000 a month out of pocket. If your take-home pay is $6,000, you have just locked up 66% of your liquidity into 4 walls and a roof. This is what we call being house poor. You have a high net worth on paper because Zillow says your house went up in value, but you can't buy groceries with home equity unless you sell the house. You are cash starved because the house eats first. The twist here is what I call phantom costs. The mortgage is just the cover charge to get into the club. The real costs are inside. When you buy a bigger house, you need more furniture. You have higher heating and cooling bills. You have a yard that needs landscaping. Things break: water heaters, roofs, appliances. I estimate that maintenance and phantom costs add an additional 1 to 2% of the home's value every single year. On a $500,000 house, that is another 5 to 10 grand a year you did not budget for. When you rent, the landlord pays for the broken boiler. When you own, that is your vacation money going up in smoke. This is why high earners feel broke. Their house is silently siphoning off every spare dollar of margin they thought they had. Here is the protocol. You need to respect the 25% rule, and you need to apply it to your net income, not your gross. Your total housing cost, mortgage, taxes, utilities, everything, should not exceed 25% of what actually hits your bank account. If you are already locked into a monster mortgage, this is hard advice, but you might need to downsize. Or you need to find a way to house hack, renting out a room or a basement to offset the cost. If you are currently renting and feeling pressure to buy, stop. Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is buying patience. It is buying liquidity. Rent is the maximum you will pay. A mortgage is the minimum you will pay. Keep your fixed costs low, and you keep your freedom. So, we have fixed the income perception, and we have caped the housing bleed. Most people stop here and think they are safe. But there is a silent killer that targets high earners specifically. It is a psychological trigger that fires every time you get a raise. If you ignore this next trap, it doesn't matter if you live in a shack, you will still end up with $0 in retirement. This is where the hedonic treadmill starts running at full speed. It goes by many names: lifestyle creep, lifestyle inflation, the hedonic treadmill. It is the phenomenon where your spending rises to meet your income. You get a $10,000 raise, and intuitively, you feel like you have an extra $10,000 to spend. So the Honda becomes a BMW. The domestic beer becomes a craft cocktail. The gym membership becomes a luxury club. It feels justified. You tell yourself, I work hard, I deserve this. And you do work hard. But deserving something is a marketing concept, not a financial one. The problem is that once you upgrade a lifestyle tier, it is psychologically painful to downgrade. You establish a new baseline of normal. This creates a ratchet effect. You can only go up. This is why a lawyer earning $300,000 can struggle just as much as a teacher earning $50,000. The math on lifestyle creep is devastating because of opportunity cost. Let's say you spend an extra $500 a month on a nicer car lease. Over 5 years, that is $30,000. But if you had invested that $500 a month into the S&P 500, earning an average return, over 30 years, that money would have grown to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every dollar you consume today is a soldier you are killing before it can go out and capture territory for you. When you commit to high recurring expenses, subscriptions, memberships, leases, you are raising your burn rate. Your break-even point gets higher. This means you need to keep earning that high salary just to stay afloat. You lose the ability to take risks, to quit a toxic job, or to start a business because your monthly nut is just too heavy to carry without that paycheck. There's a specific mechanism at play here called the Diderot effect. It is named after a French philosopher who bought a fancy new robe. Suddenly, his old desk looked shabby compared to the robe, so he replaced the desk. Then, the rug looked cheap, so he replaced the rug. One purchase triggers a chain reaction of consumption. You buy the nice house, so now your old furniture looks like garbage. You buy the nice furniture, now you need the art to match. You get the luxury car, now you can't show up to the discount mechanic. High-income earners are uniquely vulnerable to this because they have the credit access to finance the whole chain. You aren't just buying one thing, you are upgrading an entire ecosystem of goods to maintain a consistent image. That image is expensive. The protocol to fight the Diderot effect is the 50% rule. Anytime your income increases, a raise, a bonus, a side hustle, you commit to saving 50% of the new money immediately. You can spend the other 50%, go crazy, enjoy the raise. But half of it must disappear into investments before you even see it. If you get a $10,000 raise, live like you got a $5,000 raise. This allows you to enjoy the fruits of your labor while automatically increasing your savings rate. It keeps the gap between your income and expenses wide. That gap is where wealth is created. If the gap closes, you are just running faster on the treadmill to stay in the same place. We have covered the income, the house, and the lifestyle. But there is one area where conventional wisdom actually leads high earners off a cliff. Usually, I tell you to avoid debt. but there is a specific type of debt that smart people cling to because they think it's good debt. I am going to flip the script and tell you why paying this off might be the best guaranteed return you will ever find, even if the math suggests otherwise. I am talking about the good debt fallacy, specifically student loans. If you are a high earner, a doctor, lawyer, engineer, MBA, you probably took on significant debt to get that degree. We are taught that this is an investment in ourselves, and it is. But once you have the job, that debt transforms from a ladder into an anchor. I see people making 200 grand who are still carrying 50,000 in student loans because the interest rate is low. They say, "Oh, it is only 4%. I can beat that in the market." This is the spreadsheets talking, not real life. While you are technically correct about the arbitrage, you are ignoring the cash flow drag. That monthly payment is a constant reminder of the past, preventing you from building the future. Here is the math of risk. When you carry debt, you are leveraging your future labour. If you lose your high-income job, that debt does not pause. The bank does not care about your layoff. By keeping the debt around, you are maintaining a high monthly fixed cost. If you have a $1,000 student loan payment, that is $12,000 a year of post-tax money. You have to earn nearly $18,000 gross just to service that debt. When you pay it off, you don't just get the interest savings, you reclaim the cash flow. That $1,000 a month is now yours. You lower your personal break-even point. The return on investment of paying off debt isn't just the interest rate saved, it is the risk reduction and the immediate increase in monthly free cash flow. The twist is mental bandwidth. Debt is a background process running in your brain, using up RAM. Every time you look at your net worth, you have to do the mental subtraction. It adds a layer of stress to every career decision. You can't take the lower-paying startup job with equity because you have the loan payment. You can't take a sabbatical. The debt forces you to be risk-averse in your career, which, ironically, limits your future earning potential. High earners often stay in jobs they hate simply to service the debt they took on to get the job. It is a circular trap. Clearing the debt clears the mental clutter, allowing you to focus entirely on offense, making more money and investing aggressively. The protocol here is the avalanche method, but with a twist for high earners. Since you have the cash flow, you need to attack the debt aggressively. Treat it like a hair-on-fire emergency. Live on nothing for a year if you have to. Throw every bonus, every tax refund, every surplus dollar at the principal. Don't drag it out for 10 years for the credit history or the tax deduction. The student loan interest deduction phases out for high earners anyway, so you probably aren't even getting the tax benefit you think you are. Kill the debt. Once it is gone, take that massive monthly payment you were making and redirect it immediately into index funds. You will be shocked at how fast your net worth climbs when you aren't dragging an anchor. We are in the home stretch. You have audited your salary, locked down your housing, checked your lifestyle, and attacked your debt. But there is one final piece of the puzzle. It is the reason why a guy earning 50 grand can retire wealthy, while the guy earning 200 grand goes bust. It comes down to one word: liquidity. We will get to the exact portfolio allocation in a minute, but first we need to fix the reason you have no cash when you need it most. The final trap is being asset-rich, cash-poor. I see high earners who max out their 401k, put extra into their mortgage, and maybe have a little in a brokerage account. On paper, their net worth looks okay, but they have no cash. They have $2,000 in a checking account, and that is it. They are operating with zero margin for error. They assume the paycheck will always come. But if the transmission blows on the BMW, or they have a medical emergency, they have to put it on a credit card. They are wealthy, but they are insolvent. They cannot access their wealth without penalties or selling assets at the wrong time. Here is the math on liquidity. If you have to pull money from a 401k early, you pay income tax plus a 10% penalty. That is an immediate loss of 30 to 40% of your money just to access it. If you have to sell stocks during a market downturn to pay bills, you are locking in losses. Cash, on the other hand, gives you options. In a high-interest environment, cash is not trash. It is paying 4 or 5% in a money market fund. But more importantly, cash prevents you from interrupting the compounding of your other investments. You need a buffer that stands between life's chaos and your long-term wealth. The twist is that cash buys you the ability to say no. When you live paycheck to paycheck, even at a high income, you are a slave to your employer. You have to laugh at the boss's bad jokes. You have to take the assignment you hate. But when you have 6 months of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account, the power dynamic shifts. You walk differently. You negotiate better because you are not desperate. This is what I call FU money. It is not about being rich enough to buy an island. It is about being liquid enough to walk away from a bad situation. That psychological freedom is worth more than the few percentage points of optimized returns you might miss by holding cash. The protocol is simple but non-negotiable. Before you pay down extra mortgage principal, and before you invest in taxable brokerage accounts, you build the emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of lean expenses. Keep it in a separate high-yield savings account, not your checking. Do not look at it. Do not touch it unless the house is burning down or you lose your job. Once that tank is full, then you overflow into investments. This cash buffer is the foundation that allows the rest of your high-income architecture to stand tall without collapsing at the first sign of an economic tremor. So there it is. The high-income trap is a mix of tax blindness, housing pressure, lifestyle creep, debt anchors, and liquidity crunches. It is a system designed to separate you from your money efficiently and quietly. But now you see the matrix. You know that 100,000 is really 65. You know the house is a liability first. You know the car is a wealth killer. Earning a high income is a great shovel, but if you are digging in the wrong spot, you are just making a deeper hole. True wealth is not high income. True wealth is high net worth, high liquidity, and low stress. I want you to pick one of these traps today. Just one, and run the numbers for your own life. Put it in the comments below. Let's peer review each other's escape plans. Did you fall for the housing trap? Is the car lease killing you? Let me know. And if you want to see exactly how I allocate my own portfolio to avoid these traps, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.